Hey, good morning. Back here at the cutter grinder. For some reason, the last video failed to load all the way and it cut off. But I was talking about tool and cutter grinder safety. And it's the cutter grinder is kind of a difficult machine to have guards on the wheels all the time. So you have to be extra careful. And I'll talk about some wheels here. And I think I mentioned in the last video, I think the most dangerous wheel is the cup wheel, like this one here. And one of the things I'll point out that I did, this is not a very expensive cup wheel. I'll show you a better quality one, but it's an okay wheel. It's not a Norton. But I don't know if you can notice here, I had to true it up on the inside. And you got to be very careful dinking around with these wheels. This thing was really quite a bit out of true, and Norton wheels aren't like that. So I think that would make it a little bit more prone to burst if the thing's bumped. And one of the things I got going here is I use these wheels for hand grinding. You got to be very careful. And I've got this piece of metal here, and I can crank it up to the wheel, and you can see I cut a bevel. Let's see, get it right here. I cut this bevel so I can get it closer to the wheel and not accidentally get something that'll drop down in there and pinch, because if that happens, that'll explode this kind of wheel. You know, you're sitting there close to your hand, you could get injured doing that. So I don't know what to tell you. I do all kinds of things with this grinder, and I take extra precautions. Now, I would suggest, and it was suggested to me years ago. Now, I've had the advantage of having, years ago at the community college here, you could take night classes and stuff and get more instruction on things there, on things like the cutter grinder, and that's just not available anywhere, I don't think, anymore. So I had a pretty good start on it. And one of the things that was suggested is on wheel selection, if you can use these dish type wheels rather than the cup type wheels whenever possible. That's a stronger wheel to grind from the side. Okay. Now, the straight wheels, this one here has a recessed center, you'll end up putting side pressure on them, and that's where you got to be careful, because they're not designed for that, and they can break. And you just got to watch it. Now here's a Norton cup wheel, and this one's fairly coarse, but it's even in cross section, and it's just they're just chunkier and more expensive for good reason, I suppose. Now, okay, now I'm going to get into the most dangerous but sometimes handy things. You've got to be extremely careful to even think about using what I'm going to show you. Now, this here, let me get it off here, is a fiber reinforced cutoff wheel, and that's a pretty common thing, but it's got an 1.25 inch hole, you know, versus a 5/8 that you would probably see on cutoff machines. But that's what that is. And I think if I turn it, you can see the fiberglass reinforcement in it. Okay, now here, now this here is a non-reinforced cutoff wheel, 1/16 of an inch thick. Now, these here, it's just like a grinding wheel. It's the same thing. And you got to be extremely careful about loading it and any kind of side pressure on this thing. But you can do all kinds of interesting work with this. Now, one fellow I know that grinds tiny end mills uses this type of wheel to grind the flutes, you know, and I mean, that's removing tiny amount, you know, with side pressure, but it's just micro amounts. And you can grind small end mills pretty well with this thin wheel, better than a thick wheel, if you think about it. But, you know, this is at your own risk right here, and you have to take precautions, and I mean extra precautions. Mel Gross, one of our viewers here, is real sharp on stuff, and he suggested using polycarbonate or some, you know, guards and things like that, and that's really a good consideration. I'll put up a chunk of metal and kind of peek around it and stuff, but you really need to take extra precautions, like wear one of the face shields and things like that. Now, I've exploded a few of these things, and it's ugly. They go off with a big bang, and you wonder just what happened. And you don't want to be in the way of this. This type of wheel here is the most dangerous. As a matter of fact, a muffler guy over in Oregon a few years ago was killed underneath a vehicle using a die grinder with a cutoff wheel on it. And it for sure is a reinforced little cutoff wheel, but it punctured his chest cavity and killed him. And the accidents with grinders, a machine tool dealer in Spokane some years ago was nearly killed by a bench grinder, like a little Sears bench grinder. He set it up on the counter and plugged it in to see if it worked, and the wheel exploded and hit him in the head. So no matter what with wheels. Now, I was cut off, and when I was on the last one, and Mel wanted to know what I was going to say. And what I was going to say about the cutter grinder is you're going to be loading wheels in unusual ways. And so I'll set that down and show a couple of things here. Now, like this table weighs, I got to make sure that's out of the way. Let me crank that out of the way here. There we go. Move that out. Okay, this table here with these little knobs, this entire table weighs over 300 pounds, and you can manipulate it with these little knobs here. It's got a rack in here. But if you put your hand on it, you can feel the weight of it, even though it's still easy to move. So you have this 300-pound table on ball bearings, and all it's got to do is just hit the side of the wheel with whatever you're working with, or a fixture or something, and it'll explode. So I want to point out that, you know, that there is hazards with the machine. Okay, I'm going to go over to another machine, and I'll meet you over there. Okay, back all the way across the room here at the old Monarch 10EE 1951 manufacturing model lathe. And this is the most plain, simple Monarch 10EE they ever made. Doesn't have a taper attachment, doesn't cut screw threads. See, there's no lead screw. It does have a feed rod and 6 power feeds from 1/1000 to 6/1000. But it's got everything. It's got the precision spindle and everything of the more complex toolmaker's machine, like this 1983 machine here. Well, getting 3 new or old machines, 2 of them out of scrapyard, and 1 was a bargain basement axle son from a machine tool dealer. And fixing those up, I kind of neglected this Monarch motor generator noise in here. It's got to a point where I just can't really use it anymore. It's too noisy, or it's going to spit a bearing in there and be more of a problem. So I got to take it, the motor generator out and fix the bearings. And I think that might be kind of interesting. I can show you some tricks with bearings because I have to do some. And one of them is never pound on a bearing with a brass drift. Never, ever do that. You just don't do that. You don't. Okay. Now, I've got that a piece of bronze in here because I don't want to do it in there. I mean, it gets everywhere. This is the best lathe to do bronze on and stuff. And it just, the other machine's got a taper attachment, the lead screws, and all of that. I gotta show you how simple this thing is. People may not have seen a Monarch 10EE as simple as this one. I'll move that tailstock back a little bit. Now watch this. See? You can oil the screw and clean it and actually push that whole cross slide off. There is no support bearing on the end on this antique lathe. So I just pull it back and it'll screw back. Yeah, this is much more complicated over here. So anyway, I'm going to be using this lathe for everything for a while until I get this all fixed up. I try not to use this machine very much, and that that keeps the wear off of it. But I tell you what, in comparison, this thing here is like a real workhorse, and this thing here is a racehorse. I mean, you got to warm it up and everything. But that'll give me an opportunity to talk quite a bit more about the vacuum tube drive machine, and I have some adjustments to make on it, and I'll be running it through some paces, and that'll be of interest. I am also working on doing a video on wiring the module drive machines to 220 volt, and I have to bone up on a bunch of stuff because I haven't had to work on it for quite some time. Okay, I'll load this video and get back. I got some machining to do, and I'll turn the camera on for that. And thanks for tuning in. Nothing is planned here really, except for I got these little things to do, and I talk about, but I'm actually getting them done. One by one, I'm knocking it down. So the projects will get more interesting and maybe not so much machine tool related, but other things like motors and things like that. I look forward to doing more stuff like that myself. So, okay, have a good day. And the weather's kind of cold here, and but pretty, you know, a lot better than a lot of people are drowning and stuff. Bad weather. So stay warm and stay dry. Bye.